Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard and David Anderson with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. We're going to take 20 minutes of your life to deliver some amazing business content from accomplished leaders to bring you value, to scale your business, and to better yourself personally. And really hopefully you enjoyed. Cheers, everyone. Hi, this is Robert Clinkenbeard with the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I'm really excited today to be joined by a friend, great colleague, Brueggemann. He has worked for a great owner, John Muni, who I know very well, and a great company, Focal Pointe out of St. Louis. So, Brian, you've obviously been working with them for a while. Glad you've joined the Bruce Wilson and Company team. Excited to bring, to see all the knowledge that you're going to bring to all these different companies. So, Brian, tell me a little bit about you. Your background for all of our audience all around the world.
Well, thank you, Robert. I'm happy to be here. And thank you for inviting me. I grew up in Southern Illinois and lived near a wholesale nursery. And so my senior year of high school, I started working there just to catch a little bit of extra money and continued working there during the summer. And after a little while, I decided, you know what, maybe I'll decide to get a degree in this because I liked being outdoors and I loved working with plant material. So I ended up going to Southern Illinois University at Carbondale and getting my landscape horticulture degree. And then, after graduation, did something a little bit unique. I went overseas and I lived in Finland for a summer and I worked at a botanical gardens just an hour from the Arctic Circle. So it was kind of fun to be there during the summertime when the sun never sets, and but the winter times were very cold, of course.
Wow, yeah, I want to dive into that story in a minute.
I came back after that summer and finished my degree, and I ended up starting my formal career, back in the late '80s with a company out of Chicago called James Martin Associates, and they were a design, build, install company, and I cut my teeth there, learning how to install landscapes, became a crew leader, and eventually, took over as kind of an operations manager, managing one or two crews. And I did that for about 5 years. Then I decided that, it was time to come back closer to St. Louis, to where I grew up. And I came here and I worked for a landscape management company here for 21 years. We did maintenance, mostly maintenance. We had a construction division and also had a tree service. So I started out as just kind of doing sales and operations, and ended up when they expanded into multiple facilities, I decided that I could be a branch manager and took over that role. And that led to regional manager and kind of moved up the ladder a little bit. And then I met John Muni probably back in around 2000, and what a great guy. And just his company was very small at the time, and it wasn't something I was interested in moving over to, but he and I touched base again about 5-6 years ago, and the fit was right. And he was looking for somebody to help grow his company, and basically double in size and kind of help him get to be more of a regional player. And so I took a position with him as the director of land care operations, and it's just been a fantastic journey with him.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to see or hear your journey there, and great experience, great learning from great people, great companies, and we're excited to have you on board here. So, when you, I know you're just beginning to start this whole consulting journey, but when you typically go into a company or you come across companies, and what are some of the initial challenges that you typically see when you walk through the front doors or walk into the yard?
Well, I think there's a lot of things where there's not as much consistency. You don't see repeatable, streamlined processes. You don't see daily routines that people are following. I think that, there's a lot of ways that we can improve. We can tighten up systems. I think there's a lot of managers that can really look at things and say, hey, what's going to go wrong? What have I experienced over my career? And what have I done if I was a crew leader at one point? And what could go wrong for this crew member today or this team? And how do I make sure and prevent that doesn't happen? I kind of look at things from a daily routine standpoint. Everybody goes through daily routines. I mean, I have my daily routine when I get up in the morning before I head out the door and get in my truck to go to work. And whether it's the same breakfast or it's the same things that I'm doing, that I'm grabbing before I walk out the door into that truck. And there's, I guess you would call it sometimes, if you follow those same routines, I would call it almost like a sixth sense. You know, there's maybe a couple times a month where I might be backing out of my driveway and it just feels like something's not right and something's wrong. And, you know, I'll look down and it's like, yeah, I've got my phone. Yeah, I got my lunch if I make a lunch. And then I might notice that, where's my laptop? And, you know, then I realize that I left it behind. Well, those are the things that I kind of feel like if you get your crews and your team members, whether it's operations or account managers or whatever, into some basic things that they follow repeatedly, you can save time and you have fewer mistakes. And I think there's, you know, better efficiencies in that way. And that transpires all the way across to everybody, from all management to crew members to crew leaders. Repeatable, consistent, streamlined, you know, events.
What do you think stop companies from doing that? You think you'd get probably people pushing back and saying, "Oh, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to document or list it out." What are some of the pushbacks you get?
Well, I think that's it. They do say that they don't have time. But the problem is they're looking at it in a certain window where they say, I don't have an hour to plan for that, or I don't have 30 minutes right now, or even let's say during the wintertime, I can't set aside a half a day to kind of come up with a strategic planning for this. Well, what's it costing you on a regular basis every morning? If you're running 5 crews out the door, you're running 10 crews out the door. And what are those guys doing if they're wasting 10 minutes? Or what are your account managers doing if they're not following those same routines? Sometimes you have to take that time up front and you have to spend it there so you can save it on the back end, because you got to remember the back end, it's repeatable. You're going to save that over and over and over again. Where the front end, it just costs you that time in the beginning. And then it's just reiterating those things to your team, you know, during your safety meetings or whatever planning seminars you have.
No, that's so true. And you know, but that must also be a challenge though, because, you know, if you've got crew leaders, supervisors who've been doing this for multiple years, they've already built that consistency. They've already built that routine of the way they've done things in the past. They like that chaos. They like to be busy. But then, you know, you come in, you obviously come up with some recommendations. It must be pretty challenging for you to break that routine, almost like somewhat brainwash them a little bit, and then get them back into more of an efficient routine. Because even, you know, just with some of the work I do with clients or reading with books, you know, it will take probably a minimum of 90 days to come up with a new type of habit. You know, we're all in the new year, we're all maybe hopefully eating and drinking healthy. But, you know, 90 days is you know, it's a long process to go through. A lot of people give up after 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever. So what's
well,
your thoughts there?
Buy-in. You have to have buy-in, Robert, from your team. Your managers have to buy in. The owner has to buy in. All the leaders have to buy into it. And you have to see some results. If you start to see some simple results, then I think, you know, the rest of the team will follow. But you have to give it a chance. It's like you just said, habits. You know, good habits are hard to break, or bad habits are hard to break. But good habits, you know, you got to just keep repeating them until they take over, and the bad habits just kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, what are some of those early wins that, you know, would be a good, just almost like sense of encouragement for them? What would be some early wins that they should look for?
Well, I think, you know, in my eyes, you know, getting the teams off the lot early in the morning, trying to instill in them certain things that, you know, they have to do on a regular basis. You know, I picture a crew that goes out and, the crew leader should be talking to their operations manager at the beginning of the day. The one or two guys that are on his crew, they should have a job when they get there. As soon as they get there, one guy should be grabbing the keys to the truck, and he should be going out and taking a look at it, getting it started, making sure everything's in place. Somebody else might be getting the water jug and the ice, and just making sure that all the equipment's still there, so they don't get to a job site and find that they're missing a line trimmer or a stick edger or a backpack blower. Because if that's missing, then you got a manager that's got to come out and do something with it. They got to come out and bring it to you. And then that just disrupts the manager's day. And I think if you start seeing some repeatable routines there, then it kind of has a domino effect, because then the manager isn't getting his day disrupted, an account manager isn't. You start to see efficiencies. I think everything just falls into place.
No, that's so true. So true. Now, I know one of your other big skill sets you bring to the table is your strength around, financial tracking, budgeting, monitoring some of the line items, just, having ownership of that. What are some of the things that, again, you see when you first come into a company where you could have some quick wins that could, make, a point or two difference with the bottom line at the end of the year?
Yeah, one of the things that I like and I'm proud about my career is that I did work my way up from basically a crew member all the way up to where I was the director of land care operations. I can relate to the guys in the field. I can relate to the owners, and I can sit and talk about the financials. I think what you need is, there's a lot of good software systems out there. And there's smaller companies that are still working off of spreadsheets and maybe, forms they put together and tracking things a different way. But there are good systems out there that allow you to kind of compile everything together, whether it's your estimating, it can be your purchase orders, you can be logging in with your teams, they can be doing their time entry there. And on the back side of it, you're getting good data out of those systems. And the key to me is that when you have these systems in place, you need to be disciplined. You need to be disciplined in inputting your stuff correctly, inputting your data, and then regularly looking at it and getting good data back out that you can show your team members and say, this is how efficient you're being. This is where we're losing money. We're spending too much on purchasing. Why did we go out and think we're going to spend $1,000 on this, and we went out and spent $1,500 on it? Those are things that I think we have to track on a regular basis. And a lot of times what I've seen is you'll go into people will go into a new software system, or they'll start using it, and they get lulled into this feeling like, yeah, I was using paper and I was using spreadsheets before, but here I have this system, and they call it God, and they think that here it is, I just push the button and it does all the work for me. Well, you got to stay up on that, and you got to make sure that you're monitoring, your pricing in the system. You got to make sure you're monitoring what it costs for your labor in that system, and you're updating those on a regular basis, so that you end up with that where you can look at your numbers and say, wow, we haven't done this or this recently. We need to do that. And next thing you know, you've added a half a point to the bottom line.
Yeah, that's so true. And actually, that reminds me, one of the messages I was sending out, I think last week, was, with all of our price increases with materials, we're seeing it in chemicals, we're seeing it in all these other areas, we're seeing huge wage increases, 20, 30%. But then I start asking companies, I say, well, have your targets changed? Has your production rate for like a maintenance crew changed, or a construction crew changed? And they said, well, no. Why? I said, well, everything else is changing. Everything else is increasing. So you need to go back and review those targets to make sure you're actually able to pay for some of those increases that are being forced upon you. So it was, it was like that light bulb moment coming on. So
yeah. Well, and I think too, Robert, is, some of the managers and the maybe even some of the owners might have a hard time trying to figure that out. Okay, my labor is going to go up 5%. My material is going up 15%. Do they know how to back that in to say I have to raise my prices 4% or 5% or 6%? It's not a one-to-one basis there, and you have to know you can't just come into a new year and say, well, hey, I'm just going to raise my prices across the board 3% or 4%, especially in the market we're in right now. You're sitting with inflation that's out of control, and if you just make a random guess of where you think you're going to be and say, well, I'm just going to go up 4%, you might find that your material and your labor alone and your fuel may be increasing 6.5% or more.
Yeah, pretty wild out there. And that's where you need to track your labor, not track everything on a consistent, probably weekly, every few weeks. So great message. So I said I'd roll back to your whole Finland experience. Tell me about that. Tell me the good, bad, and the ugly.
Well, I was in my final year, I guess, at Carbondale. And it was one of those things where the summer before I had gone through summer school and worked there in the botanical gardens, actually in the botany greenhouse at Carbondale. And I was like, well, I really don't want to go home and just get a regular job. So I found something that was at the school on one of the bulletin boards for the American Scandinavian Foundation. And it offered an opportunity to go work either in Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, I believe. So I applied for it, and I got a job that summer for 2.5 months with the Oulu University Botanical Gardens. And I lived an hour from the Arctic Circle. Got a chance to see, the endless nights, I guess you would say, the endless days, I guess.
Yeah.
And got a chance to go to Leningrad, Russia, while I was there.
Wow, super cool.
They did some neat things for those of us. For the first time in my life, I was the foreigner in another country, and so they took us and they said, well, let's go do a 3-day event, and we'll go to Leningrad, Russia. So we went there and got to experience that, and it was just a great experience to try and figure out, how to deal with life in that area. And here I am, I'm on my own. And it was just a humbling experience too.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, super, super cool. Yeah. I need to hear a bit more about that. So in a parting message to your audience, you've got a lot of companies out there that are all different sizes, but I'm thinking particular about, smaller, medium-sized company where, there's still some struggles in the field, or maybe not making the profit margins they want to make. They know there's inefficiencies there. The owner's trying to work his way out of that in the field type, situation. What would be maybe just 1 or 2 things that they should really try and jump on and get into place, going into February?
Well, I go back to something, a little bit of a motto that I have, which is, I've always liked the little things are the big things in life. And I think about that, and, that's the foundation of who we are. Each of us is taught when we're little how to say please and thank you and hold the door open for other people. It's the foundation of who we are. It's the foundation of our friendships, our family life. But it's also, in a business, it's the foundation of your culture, the relationships you have with your coworkers, and your clients, for that matter. Do you go out and do you return their calls immediately? Do you return them within 24 hours, their emails? Are you responsive to them? I look at those little things, and it's as simple as that. It's returning the phone call, it's saying please and thank you. But it's also the little things that you do from a production standpoint. And I think a lot of times owners and managers, they look at a task and they say, well, how are we going to make up 2 points on the bottom line? Or how are we going to get our crews off the lot in less than 30 minutes or have them back at a certain time of the day? Well, you can't eat the elephant all at once. It's like they say, you got to eat it one bite at a time. So you have to identify, almost like a lean process, you have to identify that little thing here that will make a difference. Like I said before, it may be that the first thing you're doing is you're making sure that your crew leader's coming in to see their operations manager, and then each member of their crew is doing something to make sure that as soon as he walks out that door, they're ready to go. So many times you see the guys, oh, here comes the crew leader, and they're still waiting around to do everything before, and now they still got 10 minutes worth of work to get done before they can leave the lot. So that's a little thing. And I think your operations managers and your account managers are the same way. One of the things that I did with our team at Focal Point is we sat down during the wintertime and had meetings. We talked about their daily routines. And I went through with that daily routine and I asked them all to give me what their daily routine was. Then I compiled it, and then we sat back and talked about it at another meeting, and we defined it and got it tighter. And then we said, all right, do we all agree that we can follow this as a strategic plan to make sure we're kind of getting things done, and that our clients will be well served and our fellow team members will be well served? And sometimes it's as simple as that.
Yep, that's so true, so true. So how do the audience get hold of you, Brian, if they want to bring you into the company, do some consulting virtually? What's the best way for them to get hold of you? Maybe it's just even to chat to you about your trip to Finland. So what's the best way to do that? Well,
the best way to reach me is at the Bruce Wilson & Company, and I can be reached at brian.brueggemann@brucewilsoncompany.com. And so you can go to the website, and I believe we're up and running there, and you can find me there and click a link and get a hold of me that way.
Yeah, awesome. And then, I'm assuming your LinkedIn, you're probably on there, and
yep.
You're going to be on, a bunch of events coming up soon. So, Brian, really appreciate your knowledge today, your clear messaging. Thank you for your time today, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate the time.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully that was pure dead brilliant for you today, and you got some great takeaways for your business or for your personal life. This is Robert Clinkenbeard along with David Edmondson. I would love to get you and your friends to join us on your journey. If you have any ideas for future speakers, or if you just want to pass this on to friends, family, other business colleagues to sign up and subscribe, that would be awesome. Anyway, thanks everyone, and have a great 2022. Cheers.